everybody. My name is Brenda Batista with Inspiring Company Culture, and I am here today to talk to you about the 5 keys to having an invincible, high-performing team. And I'll give you a little bit about my background. I've been in consulting and working in healthcare for well over 15 years now. And as a consultant, what I noticed is when we come in and solve problems for folks, sometimes we don't retain and sustain the results. And part of that is related to the team who has to live with the change. So I started to dive a little bit deeper into how do we make a team high performing and embrace the change? How do we engage them so that they become really invested in what's happening, not just their job, but the changes that need to take place, because that results in high performance and that results in better organizational results. So having said that, what I wanted to do was start with the characteristics of what we see as an average team, some of the attributes and impacts of those events. Literally starting with drama. The average team will spend time having their own, kind of like a soap opera, really, in certain instances of things going on in the background that really just detract the team from getting done what needs to happen. So you lose a lot of time because there's a lot of energy spent in kind of the gossip of what's happening, or hey, did you hear? And just spreading that sometimes negative energy. And a lot of it has to do with, we'll get to in a moment, of communication and how we make that better. The other thing that we see is hostility. This isn't necessarily with the whole team, but members of the team. So your polar opposites. If person A always says something, person B will just say something in response to that just seems negative. They seem to want to start a fight, or they're just really against the other person. Obviously, that impacts our collaboration and emphasizes silos. So I do my job, I stay in my lane, you stay in your lane. Just, we hear that a lot when you speak to teams, because they're really not looking at how can we work together. I do my thing, you do your thing, stay away. We'll connect if and when we have to. And so you lose a lot of performance items from that. That also then leads to misalignment, because you have the different silos working on things that they need to get done, but without a view of the bigger picture. And often for the individual on the team, it creates a frustration, because I know I'm working really, really hard and I'm doing a lot of things. I'm really busy every single day. I feel that I'm productive, but yet all I hear is we're missing our goals. We're not hitting our targets, or at best, I am just kind of meeting expectations. So what can I do to make that better as an individual? As a team, then that extends to a lack of execution. Now, I picked this picture on purpose. You can see that this would be the culmination of maybe not so much the drama and hostility, but definitely misalignment and teams working in silos where they're not collaborating. And obviously, this bridge should have met in the middle. And now what? This is a big uh-oh type of event. And we see that in our organizations over and over, maybe not to this degree, hopefully not to that degree, but certainly the ramifications of that lack of execution. And that equates to your missed targets. Back to everybody's being super productive, building, doing, and then, oh, wait, we totally missed the point. We're totally missing each other. We're not getting done the strategic objectives that we need to. We're not delivering in the way that we expected to. And then unfortunately for the individual too, that results in unrealized potential. If we have a large team, it's more difficult often to find out where do they want to be, what do they want to do, what do they want to be and do when they grow up, is kind of the joking question. But it's literally, what are they really good at, skill set wise, but what do they want to grow into? How do they want to develop? Because as leads and as leaders, it's our job to make sure that we harness that potential so we don't lose the opportunities that the team potential represents for us and for our growth and for our organization development and hitting all the targets. Now, unfortunately, being average has a cost, and we don't often talk about it. We just kind of say, yeah, okay, the team is okay. Well, by a study done by Giant Worldwide, which is a group that I work with often, found that an average team has about a 58% productivity level. So that team that I just described, kind of that, the drama and all that stuff, all of that is really eating into their ability and capability to get stuff done. 58% productive, meaningful production. That means there's a lot more that can be captured and harnessed. Now, what does that mean for cost? Well, on average, if you have a 5-person team, you're looking at $200,000 annually lost in that productivity. So that's due to their underperformance and turnover costs. So you will lose some of the high performers who will get frustrated, that frustration point that we talked about. They will leave, and then you have to replace. They have to onboard, and we all know it takes a time for folks to ramp up. Now, if you multiply that, you can take that 200,000, multiply it for every 5-person team you have in your organization, and you can see what a massive problem this can be for an organization who's settling for average and not implementing some tools and techniques to get to a high-performing team. So the other thing I wanted to share with you is, what's the problem look like by the numbers? So some of you might be thinking, oh my gosh, 200,000 multiplied by how many teams? Yeah, that sums up the problem. It does from the monetary. But I want to share with you how that feels for the individual contributor. And this is based off of surveys of several thousand folks in different organizations. And it's enlightening for sure. As a lead, it's like, what can I do to fix this? So 50% of employees clearly know what's expected of them. So back to our alignment conversation before, it's really important that we're aligned on knowing what we have to get done and not just being busy for the sake of being busy. So if I don't know what's expected of them, I will fill the time. We all do that. We fill the time with things to keep ourselves occupied. But then worse, like I would say, is 34% of employees agree that their manager knows what they're working on. So this is not about micromanagement. This is about, I will say, general curiosity and kind of a support and challenge. You know that you've given them a challenging assignment, and you know that they're working towards resolving that. They're working towards something that really supports your strategic objectives. Most people feel that their manager has no idea. I show up, they probably don't even know if I show up, right? So that's not a good situation to have an individual contributor in. Then 30%, only 30% of employees believe they're given the opportunity to learn and grow. So remember my picture of the people balancing pencils on their foreheads. That's what this is about. We're just not activating their full potential, asking them the question, where do you want to grow to? Not only what is your skill set and what did I hire you for your job description, but where do you want to grow? What do you want to be? How do you want to expand? Where do you see your growth opportunities are? These are conversations that just have to happen to change that number. Then it gets worse because only 26% of employees feel they receive effective ongoing feedback. So many companies do the annual reviews, kind of rack and stack, if you will, and how are you doing on an annual basis based on the job descriptions and a couple little attributes here and there once a year. The employees asked to provide feedback, and sometimes we have them fill out stories about how they've met or exceeded, and they will give themselves a rating. And then the manager comes in and says, yes, I agree average, nope, it meets, or oh, needs improvement. You know, that type of activity once a year. Now, if we were to do this more often and have conversation around both needs improvement and exceeds, we can engage those folks and give them the feedback that they need to move their satisfaction levels up. And I say satisfaction because this is not only how they do their job, but is their satisfaction with our organization. So part of their performance might be expressing dissatisfaction by disengagement. And then last and definitely not least, only 21% of employees have performance metrics that they are held accountable to. This may be surprising to some, and some folks might say, oh, we have metrics. They know exactly what needs to get done. This is really specifically talking about production and understanding exact measurements. So when we say, SMART goals, smarter goals, it's the measurement part of that. Do they know what the measures of success are? If they're in a role that is something that's like a sales role, as an example, is usually the easiest one for folks to understand, because they say, oh yeah, it's based off of a quota. I'm getting this many done. If you're looking at production parts per hour, or phone calls handled, or loans processed, or customer calls resolved, those are all great numbers. But I would also caution that you don't want to, again, make it seem like a micromanagement type of thing. It's really about how to engage them so that they understand what's really meaningful in their daily activities. So having seen that, the average team and what that looks and feels like from the team perspective and from the individual perspective, here are really the 5 drivers for team performance. These are things that we can work on over time. It's not an instant fix, but definitely I've seen organizations and teams improve overall when they take a look and address these 5 areas. The first one is have healthy and effective team communication. Whether remote, hybrid, or in person, this is fundamental. This isn't just about team meetings and being effective in a team meeting and getting stuff done. This is about engaging people in the way that they like to be spoken to and in the way that they will feel safe to speak up and contribute. Second is relational trust. We have to make sure that they feel supported and challenged. And I mean challenge not from a debate perspective, but challenge in that they're growing, really pushing their edges, so to speak, in a way that's helpful. And this is something that the whole team does. So this isn't just a relational trust with the leader. This is the entire team is responsible for making it a safe environment to really act and perform as a team. We're all there for each other. We've got each other's backs. Third is that everyone is on the same page. So they're aligned around the objectives. They know how their work contributes to the overall objectives of the team, the department, or the organization, by knowing exactly what they're supposed to work on and their top priorities and how everything fits together. Think of it kind of as a cascade. Fourth, every person knows and is working on the right things to hit the team goals. So this is a productivity thing. What I would say often to teams and team members, if you could get just one thing done today, what would be most impactful? What is the one thing that if you got nothing else done would move the project or the production the furthest? Because that really helps level set what they should be working on and takes away the distractions, but also give them space to say that is a distraction. I don't need to work on that today. That can be scheduled for later. And then fifth is utilization of their capabilities and skills. Back to that skill set. We hire them for skill sets, but we need to understand their capability, because that is not often a question we ask in the hiring phase and onboarding, because we're hiring for a skill set and a job description that's pretty much boxed in. This question gets to getting them outside that box. What are their capabilities? What other role could you possibly use them for? And what do they want to go and grow into? So some tools to help do that. First of all, around communication, it's making sure, as I said before, everybody's heard, appreciated, and you value their contribution, not in a patronizing manner, but in an opportunity for them to speak up and knowing how they would speak up. For example, this grid below is one format to look at how people speak and how they show up in different environments. This is based on Myers-Briggs, but there's got a couple of other personality kind of attributes rolled into there. But I'll point out two things to you. They're lined from quietest voice, meaning the one who's going to speak up the least in a meeting, to the one who will take control. So the nurturer speaks the least, the pioneer will speak all the time if you let them. Now, the important part to note is that 43% of our workforce is that quiet voice. So you have to focus on how to get them comfortable speaking up and sharing their thoughts and ideas. And I'm going to skip to the one in the middle. That's the guardian. That's 30%. So combined with nurture and guardian, 73% of our workforce is kind of on a quieter side of the contribution. And they're not going to take charge of a meeting. But more importantly, if you look at the bottom, they are present oriented. What that means is they like to be communicated to about how am I going to get from where I am to where you want to go. So they like to hear the strategic vision, and they're like, that's nice, but tell me the details. So if you're a strategic thinker and you don't fill in the details for these folks, this is going to cause a misalignment and a little bit of distrust because they don't know how we're going to get from where we are to where you want to go. They trust your judgment of where we should go, but they're not so sure that you figured out all the details. So they want more details. So I say that because that's one of the missed opportunities that we have with teams. The other thing is why I talked about relationships and gossip and that sort of thing. It wastes a lot of time and you lose a lot of credibility with the team and a lot of distrust gets built. This is a way to take that out by going to the source. This is one of the tools I recommend by establishing rules of engagement. Rules of engagement mean that if person number one has a problem with person number two, they go directly to them. Not, the water cooler, not a side call to somebody else and say, oh my gosh, do you know what person number two did? And spread rumors, because that causes the distrust. So rules of engagement, something else to build relational trust. And then this particular tool, support challenge matrix, is one that I think is the most powerful tool that you can implement and use as a leader, because it creates that culture of empowerment. It allows the team to thrive, minimizes your turnover, and increases productivity. Now, one of the things I would really suggest is take this particular grid or tool and offer it up to your team and just have them plot where they think they are or you are as a team on this grid. Because what you want to do is being a liberating culture where you supply high support for work, high support for the new challenge, and you give them challenges. So you want to be over in this grid of liberate, because that creates a place where people want to be and they're totally engaged. The other ones, I think we can all come up with stories of where we've been micromanaged or we've been set up to fail. So we've either been in a dominate where they create the fear and just, if you mess this up, you're out of here. Yeah, that's a domination type of effect. It's not a great leader, and that's not a team environment where people thrive and really like to be. On the other hand, of protect, that's where we get that entitlement. So yeah, that you get the participation medal, for lack of a better term, of, hey, you're here, yay, you showed up. And you expect nothing else out of them when they can do so much more. So this is why I say this is a very powerful tool, the support challenge matrix, because it tells you where you are in defining and providing that culture that's really supportive of teams. So what I suggest for your team to figure out, where are we on our journey? How can we get better? And how to become an invincible team? It's literally 3 steps. First, do an assessment. So you have a quantitative baseline, not just a qualitative, how do we feel about things, but what's the survey saying? So literally, this is a survey of different elements along this 5 categories. And then once you have your baseline, utilize tools specifically designed to get at your weakest point. So if we look at this Acme Co over here, you see that their execution is their weakest spot. They're great in alignment because they feel completely aligned, but they're just not getting stuff done. You see that 65%. They would find, and if this was similar to your situation, you would find tools that really drive to the heart of how do we execute better? How do we take our alignment and actually get stuff done? Because it's telling me that we are not. And then last is implement a recurring process and processes to transform the team. So this is not a one and done. This is a journey. Re-survey at least every quarter to find out how this grid is changing for you. How are we improving? Where do we need to improve? You're going to add new people, so you want to see how the dynamics are shifting as the team shifts. And it's a great way to understand where you're going and how to improve and how to become an invincible team. Most teams that I work with, like I said, at the beginning, they start in that 58%, 58 to 60% range of productivity. That would be their middle score there in the center. After focusing on these elements for at least 6 months, sometimes a year, we start to see them move into that 80, 90 range. So when I work with folks, that is the goal, get them from 58, 60% into a 90% range. So they have a true healthy culture and an invincible team. So that is my talk for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. As I mentioned at the beginning, my name is Brenda Batista. You can find me at Inspiring Company Culture. My email is brenda@inspiringcompanyculture.com. So thank you so much, and best wishes on your journey.